Hey guys, Chris the Ultimate Recycler. Welcome back to the channel. It's Tuesday afternoon. I'm home for a few days. The weather's pretty good. It's not too hot in my shed. What time is it? It's time to get something else out of the emergency storage shed. Let's go. I haven't planned anything for this week. In fact, I haven't planned anything for any week, so I'm just trying to commit to my obligation to make some room in this emergency store shed. Last time we were looking around here, we had a peek in this box, and it's full of early electrical fittings and fuse box bits. So I think we'll do that one now. It's the next to go. We might just hang this sign up out front too. Get this out of here. This was given to me by Christine's mum. Thanks, Hannah. No one's ever given me a man cave sign before. Beautiful. It's now an official cave, albeit a cluttered one. Okay, I don't remember where this stuff came from, as usual. It's possibly came from someone's shed, but I do find myself rescuing these sort of things from skips when people are doing up old houses and old sheds. The electricians just always throw these straight in the skip. If nothing else, there's good brass and there's often bits of copper on the back, but I can sell the fuses, I can sell the switches, but that board itself might make a nice vintage electrical display. So let's go through the box and see what we've got. I think we'll just spread them all out for now and just sort of have a look over what we've got. See, that's complete. That's got all its old fuses in it. A really cool old Bakelite switch. Little brass connector block. The board on the back of these is likely to be an asbestos board. Remember, recently we did a video on that selenium rectifier, and that was actually stenciled across the back, asbestos. They used to use it a lot on old fuse boxes. Because it was non-flammable, and I guess it's a good insulator as well. It's only dangerous if you start drilling it or filing it or grinding it and creating a dust. If I clean these up and maybe spray them with a clear lacquer, they'll be perfectly safe. A lot of other old switches and power points were on wooden blocks, which is pretty cool, and I have got a whole box full of these timber blocks somewhere. This one's got a crack across it, unfortunately. But that's essentially an old power outlet, individual switch, big sort of springy clunk noise to them. And just the power outlets, they're both damaged. That one looks like it's been pretty hot at one stage. That one's clearly broken. Yeah, we'll just lay them all out and we'll work out what we're going to do. There are going to be some light fittings as well. Again, these are on wooden blocks. That's got a break too. Another little fuse box there. All sorts of random bits and pieces as well, all electrical. It's a shame that's broken out. Love the real 50s green. A lot of these were in old houses, and this one is cream. Now, a lot of these were just on stained timber with the original black Bakelite look. And then in the 50s, paint was so fashionable. They painted everything. A lot of houses had timber dado lines and wall paneling, and it all got painted classic green from the 50s, a cream again. It's kind of got its own nice shabby chic look to it. Here's a nice one. This is still in a little box, nicely crafted. Again, it's probably an asbestos panel at the back. Lots of wire here we can trim off, but 3 fuses, federal fuses, brass connector strip, and the switch. And of all things, a bread knife. How does a bread knife go with electrical stuff? Maybe as an example of not to stick it in a toaster. A little bit of wiring. These old double adapter light fittings, and I can remember Dad using one of these when I was little, and you would take the globe out of the ceiling fixture, just the bayonet fitting globe. You would then put the double adapter in. You could put the globe back in one outlet, and I think Dad used to plug his razor into the other. So no earth at all. You don't see them these days. I don't know if they're legal to use or not, but you really shouldn't run electrical items that aren't lights off a lighting circuit because you don't have any earthing. That's a more modern PowerPoint. A lot of older ones. Yeah, I'm going to tip all this out on the bench. There's another power board. So I'll tip the rest out and we'll sort it out into various groups and work out what we're going to do with it. So I'm just going through what I've got here, wiping the dust off it. There's some nice early Bakelite power points or power outlets. The switches are still good. They're made in Australia by Clipsal, and they're definitely Bakelite. They're the older style, so I think they're saleable. There's 2 of those so far, and there's another one here. Oh yeah, there's the other thing for it. So I'm just wiping them over, getting the dust off them, taking the bits of copper out so that there's no remainder wires there. These modern ones, there's a modern double power point here and a light switch with a dimmer. I've got a box for just random electrical stuff in the shop, and I usually just have like $10 on the lot, and I just keep adding things until someone sees value. Just the other weekend, someone grabbed half of the box and said, that's all I want, but I'm happy to pay $10. So what's left, I've just been adding more stuff to, and we'll just keep topping it up. So they can sell, but they're not worth a great deal. Some of these old Bakelite ones are got a bit of paint on them. That's a bit more modern, that one, than the other ones. I like the other ones. Oh, there's one there. Yes, so we've got 3 of those. There's an unused wooden block for a light switch. So that's going to have some value. I might check eBay. I have seen these sell on eBay before. Now that's just the remains of a socket from an extension cord. That can probably just go in our e-waste bucket. Likewise, any broken switches. There's a few switches here. I don't have enough cover plates. Oh, there's another one. Yep. So we've got, oh, that's slightly different size, but it's still the right era. The switches all work really well on these old things. They're much better switches than the new ones. We have some fuses that fit in these fuse boxes, so we'll go through and check those out in a minute too. What's this? Piece of metal. I don't know what that's off. I don't think it's electrical. I think it might be brass though. We'll check that with a file soon. I'll put that aside. I think that power point being a little bit more modern and being pretty grotty, and the switch doesn't seem as positive as that other one. That can just go in our e-waste. There's a face plate from just a single switch. It's a nice early Bakelite one. That's branded Ring Grip, another Australian brand. I don't think I've got a switch for that one though. I'll put that aside for the moment. There's just a nice, oh, that switch feels a bit dodgy, but that's the sort of switch that would mount on this wooden block here. And you often see these in 1930s and 1940s houses. That's a Clipsal brand. So we'll put that aside. I think we might be able to fix this too. It's just the spring toggle isn't flicking back. So there's a fair chance it might just need a bit of lube in there. Usually the contacts are quite okay. Yeah, it's not actually switching at all. I might check that one in a tick and see if we can fix it, because I can readily get $5 each for these switches. So I'll put that one aside as well. Here's an inline switch. That feels pretty good. That's branded Elmaco or Elmaco. It's Bakelite, and you can take it apart, so you could easily wire that into a cord. I think that's probably saleable. This is out of a fluorescent tube. It's where the starter goes in. So I don't have a use for that. I don't think people use those so much anymore. Everyone's going to LED tubes. So that's going to the e-waste pile. Here's this is a ceiling mount, and that's what would have gone with it. So this is when you have your ceiling light hanging on a cord. So that attaches to the ceiling directly. Your wiring comes into that from above, and then you wire the cord into here for your light, and that goes on as a cover. So for hanging like a pendant light that hangs from the ceiling. So I think that's probably a saleable piece as well. There's another cover for one of those. Another fluorescent tube starter thing. That looks like a fuse holder, or maybe a main switch off a more modern fuse box. Don't think we need to keep that one. Some more fuses here. I think that's just a spacer. I don't think we need that. Oh, there's a light switch. Yeah, that goes with that. Yep, beautiful. A little bit dirty, we'll clean that up. And it probably needs a little bit of spray in there, just some contact cleaner. Help lubricate the pivot spring. And they work really well, these switches. Okay, I've just been organising all these things. We're just about ready to do some prices. I'll run through quickly what we've got here. That's our e-waste. They're all broken bits and pieces. And yes, there are tiny brass little connectors and things in these, and some scrappers like to get them out, but I'm not going to worry with those. They're going to the shop, as I said, for a box lot of electrical. The light double adapter thingos, I reckon I'll go $5 each on those. Same with the ceiling light fixture. And these ones, I'll keep these because that's a lamp switch and I'm forever repairing lamps. And the inline switch, I think I would probably use on a floor lamp or something. So they're going to be useful. I've got a pile of wire offcuts here. There's a fair bit of copper wire here. Some of the old rubber coating just falls off it, so we might even break a little bit more up and get a bit more number 2 copper wire. It'll add up to a fair bit. Those Bakelite power points I think are at least $5 each. I might even go a bit more if I can find the right screws. I might even have a box of the screws for there. We have this one. I decided I think I'll just put this in the shop at $5. It's a shame the timber's cracked. This light switch is okay, or power switch. This one's got a bit broken out of it, so I might just go 5 on that. The other one I reckon I'll get 10 for, because both switches are good and I get $5 each for the switches anyway. I took the covers off. That one's obviously broken out. This one's been melted a bit, and I have got a box full of those at the shop, so I'll replace those two there. These other bits here are still useful bits. They'll just go in a box of old fittings I've got here. That cover doesn't suit that one, and that fuse doesn't suit any of the fuse boxes, so they'll just go into a box here where I've got some vintage electrical stuff. These ones, I fixed this switch. It just needed another screw in there, and the switch works beautifully now, and I screwed it to this wooden block, so I reckon we'll get $10 for that. And these light fittings, if I choose to sell them, I'd get $5 each without any problems. Sometimes I keep these ones for lamps, so I'll work those out at the end of the video. I have a box full of those timber mounting blanks somewhere, so that can go in that. And the rest of it, these fuse box or fuse panels, I've taken the connector blocks off. They're only one screw, and I'm just going to buff them up so they look nice because they're all brass. I'll wash the rest of them up. I do need a couple of extra fuses and a cover for this one, and I've got a box of those at the shop, so I'll bring them home. So we will have 5 complete little fuse boxes that really scream 1940s, and no one's going to use them, I wouldn't imagine. I don't know that they're even legal to use, but they'll classify as steampunk. They'll wash up nicely. I'll spray them with a clear lacquer so that if there's any danger from possible asbestos, it will be safe. And I'll show you those when they're done. Okay, conclusion time. Everything's ready to go. First of all, have a look at these power boards. How well did they come up? Just a bit of a wash in hot soapy water. I buffed up the brass blocks. I took them off to do that. And spray with clear lacquer, and everything looks beautiful, clean, glossy, and really impressive. I'm having a morning where I can't find things. I know I've got more of these fuses, I just can't locate them at the moment. I did find one, and I've got a whole tub full of these switches, various parts, and I can't find a cover for it. Well, I can't find the tub, but I will find them, and these present really well, and I'm going to try $20 each on these. I think they'll sell quite easily. They really would look great in a vintage display of steampunk with big old ammeters and voltmeters, and a lot of vintage electrical stuff looks really good on display. So a little bit of effort, well worthwhile. I reckon they cleaned up well. The other stuff, I fixed the 2 bits there. They're the 2 ones, so they can go into the e-waste box now. And everything else, oh, this little bit of metal, I just buffed up to see what was on it. I couldn't make anything out other than some numbers. It's not even brass, it's some sort of die-cast alloy. So that can just go in the dirty aluminium bucket, or irony aluminium. Everything else is as we've discussed. So let's have a quick look at the notepad. So prices, $100 if we can get $20 each for those fuse boards. Everything else I've pretty well discussed over and over again, so you've got the gist there. I included all those light fixture fittings with those, but I will be keeping some of them. $190 for one small box full of vintage electrical stuff. All I'm keeping is these few bits that are incomplete, but I will use them. And I'll keep some of these light fittings for when I'm working on lamps. So probably those 4. Everything else is going to the shop for sale. We have these bits to go in boxes, as I've discussed. The copper wire I've sorted out. There's about $1.50 worth of copper wire there. Some of the insulation broke off on that stuff, which will go as number 2 copper. This will go as insulated copper, so it's about 75 cents per pile. I weighed it up just to get an idea. And this stuff's going over into the e-waste bucket, which is getting pretty full. I'll have to do a run to the transfer station soon. My insulated copper wire is going in this tub for now. My assorted Bakelite parts are just in there for the moment. And I do have some lamp parts in that box, and there's also some under the bench I can't get to at the moment. Now, tinned and lacquered and soldered copper wire all goes under the burnt category, number 2 copper wire. This piece is into the irony aluminium bucket. And if you remember this old bread knife, it's not good enough to sell. I do sell them sometimes. If they're an English bread knife, they'll get $5. This one's badly weathered. But if you're ever wondering what's a good way to cut this polystyrene, bread knives work brilliantly. I won't cut through it now. I don't want to make a mess on the bench, and I need the box. So that can just go in the shred steel pile. And now this box can go off to the shop. We've sorted the whole lot. We've got some good stuff to sell. And guess what? No rubbish at all. So guys, another box sorted. Something else out of the emergency storage shed. I've got to say, this box would have been so easy to just shove under a bench somewhere and say, I'll get to that one time. I might need electrical fittings. I'll just keep the whole box. And that's what clutters up my shed more than anything. You know the old story, it might be handy one day. Well, some things are, realistically, and other things, you're better off not cluttering. And if you need one of those things, just go and buy one. So I feel my mind is sorting this really well. I've got to thank you guys for encouraging me to stick with this, because the one a week is good discipline and I'm getting somewhere. But also, I could have easily just shoved this box under a bench thinking I use electrical stuff all the time, it'll be handy. But now I've got near $200 worth of stuff to put in the shop. I was never going to use this stuff anyway. And the few bits that I will use, like for the lamps, there's only a handful and they can be easily stored and I will use them. So it's working really well. I appreciate you guys helping me out. I feel like you're here almost lifting stuff with me. So thanks for that. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.